thanks for being here. Always fun to be part of the Yukon Pavilion. Love the geology in the Yukon, the way that mining and exploration can happen in Yukon, and love to catch up with the stories. There's always more than I can truly keep up with. So I also appreciate the chance to hear from these three guys. So let's start with Peter, because he's the closest to me. Peter and I were just chatting back there about the new discovery that Klondike has made of late. So Peter, they get a whole whopping 2 minutes. Maybe I'll give him 3 if I'm feeling generous, to try and give us the rundown on the story. So go.
Oh, I can use it in 2. So Klondike Gold, we own all of the historic Klondike gold field, 727 square kilometers, covers the 18 producing placer creeks that from 1896 until now produced 20 million ounces. Until now, there's been no known source. For me, I've been 8 years pushing a wet noodle uphill for this, trying to figure that out. Over the last 4 years, we've funded research, and we've just announced 5 days ago an actual real discovery that explains the Klondike. And what it is, there's high-grade multi-ounce from 1 ounce to 50 ounces in flat shears. So there's shear zones, and those shear zones are surrounded by extensional sheeted veins. The sheeted veins are low-grade, that's 0.5 gram to 10 grams, and the shear zones are 1 to 50 or higher. So we have some sections to look at out there. It's a legitimate discovery made over 400 meters of strike length, wide open. And over the last couple of years, we've developed a resource on the sheeted veins only, totaling 600,000 ounces. What we're going to do in the near future is expand that number dramatically. That's all I have to say for now.
Sounds good. I'll come back and ask each of these gentlemen a question or two about their company, and we can talk about Yukon and gold in general as well, but I'll let them do their 2-minute pitches first. So moving right along, Simon, give us the rundown on RACLA, please.
So RACLA is a relatively new company. We're exploring completely the other end of the Yukon, over by the Northwest Territories border and in the Northwest Territories. We're looking at these tombstone sweet intrusives. So we're looking for multi-million ounce gold deposits. With these tombstone sweets have been known for some 20 years now, and there's been some big mines found in them. But in the last couple of years, a company called Snowline made a significant discovery on the eastern side of the belt, which was more known for tungsten deposits and gold deposits. So Snowline's discovery showed that these tombstone sweets can host gold on the eastern side of the belt. So I lived in Dawson City for many years and knew these tombstone sweet intrusives. So when I saw that discovery, I took RACLA and acquired a large land position in that part of the Yukon, in the tombstone belt. Last year was the first year we worked on the belt, and we put in about 15 drill holes, and towards the end of the season, I think we made the initial discovery in one of those tombstone sweets. The grades were kind of lower. It's not that 100 meters of 1 gram plus that you need in these sweets, but I think we're on the edge of that. We got some 50 meters of 0.5 gram, 130 meters of 0.3. So we're off to a great start. We're going to be doing a lot more drilling this year, probably some 6,000 to 10,000 meters. And we'll start doing that in June, I hope, if the weather permits.
Good old wait for the snow game. Fantastic. Good intro, quick intro to RACLA. And David, if you could give us the rundown on white gold, please.
Thanks, Gwen. Great to be here. White gold is also in the Klondike district, close to Peter's company. White gold is, I believe, the largest landholder in that district, probably in the Yukon as well. And, just for people, like a little extra context, the Klondike is, the location of the historic Klondike gold rush, during which time there were 20 million ounces of gold mined from the placer creeks. This area extends from Dawson right down to probably the casino deposit, which itself has defined 20 million ounces. So when you're looking for gold, in our view, you want to go big. So you're going to a place where there's been at least 40 million ounces of gold that's known. We've put that package together with Sean Ryan over about 10 or 12 years now. And in that time, we've been extremely successful in delineating our own deposit, which is the Golden Saddle and Arc deposit. That's over 2.1 million ounces across all categories, about 2 grams, primarily open pit. And we've been even more exciting, been able to make other new discoveries. And that's our goal. We're going to build value in our meat and potatoes, and we have this massive land package. We're looking to make new discoveries. We've made several. Probably the most noteworthy in the recent years on our Betty property. That is contiguous to the Coffee deposit, which is being advanced by Newmont, the world's largest gold corporation. Also contiguous to Western Copper and Gold's large porphyry deposit. In the last 2 years, we've hit phenomenal grades, starting right from surface, 50 meters, 3 grams plus, up to about 18 grams in some areas. We've now stretched that across a couple hundred meters. We've moved it north-south a couple hundred meters, wide open for discovery in all directions. That's one of many targets on that property, right along the same fault system that holds the deposits in the area. So very exciting. Coming up, we're fully financed for 2024. We'll be doing more work down there. There's a couple of very interesting copper multi-element porphyry targets in that area, which, considering the relevant location to the other big porphyries, these porphyries happen in clusters. Very excited to see what's going there, and likely be doing some more work along the trend that hosts our flagship deposit. We've been finding more and more gold in very close proximity, and we're extremely excited to see how big that deposit continue to be.
All right. I have a couple different angles that I want to approach. So I'm going to kind of ask each of you about an angle. I'm sure you would each have comments on each question, but we don't have all the time in the world, so you don't get to answer them all. David, I'll just stick with you. Let's talk about, you have projects spread, I mean, you're in the Klondike, but your projects are spread over an area. So I'm asking you this question because of that dispersion over an area. Let's talk about access, infrastructure, how difficult, how easy it is. I mean, I've been to Yukon many times, I'm familiar with this, but it's certainly a question that arises anytime anybody is considering Yukon.
That's a great question, relevant to any exploration project anywhere. Mm-hmm. Historically, a lot of it's been helicopter access, which, it's a double-edged sword. One, it means no one else on Earth has ever been there. That's the fertile, unexplored opportunities we have. It's also more expensive. However, going forward, we are extremely optimistic about some infrastructure projects that are coming into play. In 2016 or 17, the government announced its Resource Gateway program, where between the federal, territorial governments, they would be investing, I think it was $350+ million specifically to support mining, exploration, and development. That's broken up into 3 different areas within the Yukon. One of that is right in the Klondike district. And the major part of that investment is a road that starts in Dawson City and basically goes right down to the Coffee deposit. And something like that would be a total game changer for us. There is an existing network of roads there. It's placer roads primarily. So the plan would be to upgrade those roads to haul grade roads. Now you're driving through the district. Everything gets more accessible. The economics change and everything. Now at 200, like any other camp, right? I think everyone here thinks that this has the opportunity to be a major camp. And when you're in a camp and you have facilities in operations, any sort of pod you find in that area has a better chance of being economical. So this is on the cusp of what's to come. I know Newmont is working closely with the government as well, and it is something we're very much looking forward to see how that plays out in the coming years, because it'll be wonderful for the territory and particularly our district.
Absolutely. Big change, big amounts of money, and just the impetus that government wants to do that is obviously a really notable thing. Simon, I'm working my way back along the bench here. Obviously, you're looking for a reduced intrusion related project, just like deposit, just like what Snowline has. This may seem like it's early to ask, but I'm curious what, even at your early stage, Snowline has of course attracted so much interest from the market. What has the corporate interest been in Racla? And again, I know that seems like an early question, but I'm curious. We saw Barrick invest in Hercules Silver for its porphyry deposit very, very early, because the majors are really interested in big new discoveries. So I know that's you're not quite on, you haven't crossed over the sort of Snowline type threshold, but I'm curious whether there's been approaches or just to get a sense of that level of interest.
No, there hasn't to date. I think we need to get that, that 100 meter-gram intercept to get that corporate interest. We have had a few conversations with people, obviously, because we're quite a large land position. And I think one of the benefits we have is we're very close to the Canal Road. So our camp is road accessible, which
Yes.
for this kind of remote exploration is a good start. So, but I think to get that corporate interest, we need to get that big intercept, which forward-looking statement. 2024, I'm very optimistic we'll see that.
And of course, the investor interest has been present, I'm sure, as
very
you
good,
launched
actually.
RACLA.
Yeah, it has been very good. I mean, this Snowline's discovery really brought a lot of people, a lot of attention to the area. I was surprised there wasn't a big staking rush in the areas. But
Well, because there's a moratorium,
a year later, I
isn't
took a
there?
look at
Yeah.
it, and there was nobody was active in the region.
Yeah.
So I was able to, acquire quite a large land position due to that fact. So hopefully it stays that way, and I can keep picking at it.
Absolutely. Okay, Peter, one of the interesting angles for me, maybe it's because I'm a scientist, but of the Klondike story is that you really have spent 8 years trying to understand, redefine the science of the Klondike region. And this is what you just described as sort of the second phase of that. The first phase had to do with vein orientations, or the entire orientation of how gold was deposited. Take us through a little bit of that thinking and how it has changed, opened up, what you see as the potential to define big deposits in the Klondike that has, of course, been known for placer primarily.
So to begin with, that's where I started, was invited in to evaluate the district, which was a placer district. It had been mapped in the early 80s, and the conclusion of the mapping was all the gold was eroded away into the creeks. There's nothing in the bedrock, so why would anyone go and look there?
Yeah.
And despite all evidence, I mean, that's geologically just not possible. It didn't fall from the moon. Come on. And so looking at it, went, all right, what I did initially for the first 3 of my 8 years pushing the wet noodle uphill is actually use the previous exploration data, and in year 4 threw it away because it wasn't leading anywhere and it didn't make any sense, and including the soil. So in year 4, we paid nearly $500,000 to re-soil Eldorado Creek, the prime thing, and that killed me to spend that money. Because it's and suddenly the whole hillside lit up. Yes, there are soil anomalies there where there were none before. Anyway, and so it's been, and we've redone the entirety from a geology perspective as well. It's defined as the Klondike schist. That's it. And it isn't. It's a series of multiple terrains bounded by faults. There's never been a fault mapped until we put it on the map a couple of years ago. And where's the gold? It's an orogenic gold belt, but with no fault of any sort.
That doesn't make sense.
Well, that's also a little bit wrong.
Yeah.
And so we've spent $350,000 plus on basic science, like high PhDs, masters, academics. And out of that came a perspective this past summer, which has just redefined the geology of the Klondike utterly. The potential, I've been saying for years, is that there's 20 million ounces of gold in placer. We're missing 50 million ounces in bedrock within our property. As an endowment, that's the target. And comparable, that's what the endowment of the Colorado or the California Mother Lode is, and the same ratio in Kleeman, Russia, formed at the same time. So where is that? And with the suggestion of 2 world orogenic experts who visited this summer, they said, look, do you have a granite? Yes. Well, the biggest deposit should be on a granite contact. Do you have a flexure in your belt? Because we own 60 kilometers of strike length. Said, yes, there's a really big, 30-degree flexure. That's exactly the angle. Where the granite is, go look there. And that's what we've just released 5 days ago.
Yeah.
Amazingly enough, they were right. And that's where it's bonanza grades. And it's California Mother Lode, which, to give a perspective, a comparative, if you took our claims, stuck them on the California Mother Lode, we'd own 2/3 of the entire district, and there'd be 60 mines in our property. That's what I think we're going to have coming soon. Forward-looking statement.
No way. All right. Peter kind of just did this, but I'm still going to work down the line, starting with David, and ask. Okay, so David, for you have quite a few things that you're advancing this year. So give us just a little bit more resolution on that, because I always love to hear what is the clear plan for attempting to add shareholder value at White Gold this year, and generally growing the resource that you have and trying to make new discoveries. But talk about shots on goal, targets tested, odds of success. These are the kinds of things that I like to get a little more clarity on.
Yeah, it's always a fun time of year when you're trying to pick which targets to work on, right?
Absolutely.
Everyone's got their favorites, and it can get pretty animated in the planning session. And
Yeah.
but fundamentally, our exploration is very science-driven, right?
Yeah.
We have a protocol. It's worked. It's been initially started by Sean Ryan. It's been extremely successful. It's led to the discovery of millions of ounces of gold, right? So at the end of the day, you don't want to be arguing with success. And when do we drill something? We drill it when it's ready. Now, in our case, it takes quite a bit of work to really work up the science to give us our best chance of success, which we think is clearly in the best interests of shareholders. There's lots of high-risk exploration we could be doing, but we'd rather take kill shots instead of just a spray and pray. And particularly in a market like this, you got to be very conscientious. So, where are we today? We have a pipeline where we rate our projects as advanced, discovery stage, and grassroots. We like to touch on all of those every year because that's what we've been doing and that's what's led to the success. So this year we will again have somewhat of an approach like that. And in ranking the projects, this is the time of year where we're really getting into that. But just sort of speculating on some of the conversations we've had. And we're very fortunate to have attracted, you brought up a good point about the interest of majors. If you look at the Yukon in general, I think almost every major has now moved in. That's sort of very quiet and kind of staying under the radar.
Yeah.
But as an investor, I think that's, a cue you should be following. These guys are the best in the world. They're looking for big, needle-moving type opportunities. I think that's what the Yukon is, right? It's clearly in a great place. And it's so underexplored that's where they see this happening. And we've been able to attract Agnico Eagle and Kinross as our partner. So we're in an extremely fortunate position, and they've been kind enough to help participate in our planning and lend to us their technical expertise. So it's a really wonderful opportunity for us. But to answer your question, I think this year we will continue to the work on our advanced stage bucket along that trend where we've had the recent discoveries and what we've been doing the last 3 or 4 years. Instead of just going to delineate our existing deposit, which we know or we think we know will grow, as a junior, you want to be doing some more needle-moving, exciting type opportunities. So we've given ourselves a boundary of close proximity to look for new targets in that area. We've worked up a couple. We've been very successful. We're going to continue to do that. We think we have some new targets that will generate additional ounces. So that's there. In our discovery stage, I think the Betty, that's getting all the attention right now. We had a huge new discovery a couple of years ago, 50 meters of 3.5 grams from surface. Obviously, it's in elephant country, like I mentioned, beside the coffee, beside the casino. That Betty Ford itself will warrant some more work, plus some untested property targets on that property. It's in such a great geological setting that we would love to do more work there. And then we have some of these grassroots properties, which we're going to touch on as well. I mentioned these two porphyry properties. We think there's some great opportunity on those, as well as a couple other very, very early stage properties. So we're going to have to fight over in the next few weeks to figure out which ones get the attention this year.
Lots on the go. Okay, so lots of shots on goal, data-driven shots on goal. Okay. Simon, give us some more resolution on how you plan to, hope to, move from good initial hits into the system that you believe is there to hopefully the kind of hit that everyone, that you're actually gunning for. So how are you trying to vector from what you got to slightly better grade and slightly more scale? What are the signposts?
Well, I think it's following up on the work we did last year. I mean, we had a lot of boots on the ground prospecting. It's this part of the Yukon we're working in. I don't think it has seen any boots on the ground within those intrusive bodies at all. So we identified a lot of targets, did a lot of geochemistry, a lot of rock, soil geochemistry, identified some good targets to drill. We tested several of those targets with a couple of drill holes in each one.
Right.
A couple of the zones showed some really good promise. So obviously we'll get the drill back in those areas. And we still have a large land position where we generated a lot of interesting surface results. We'll get back to drilling those areas. But my job is first to get out there and raise the fund to do that. And that's, that is the challenging part of being a junior exploration company, keeping the company's finance. So
Absolutely.
The next 3 months, that's my job.
Absolutely. There's that horse and cart thing, for sure. Absolutely. Okay, Peter, big science project, really cool theory that has now turned into a new discovery. Talk about what you want to do specifically with that discovery in the coming year, and then whether it's given you other ideas, like targets, like that you want to and what you want to do with those over the next season.
So what we discovered was right off this, what we call the standard zone, which is one of our resource areas. And the resource is developed in extensional veins. But it turns out the extensional veins have to be generated from something.
Yes, as we said before, like they have to extend from something.
It turns out to be a high-grade shear vein. That's exactly okay. So here we have multi-ounce shear veins. So 25 holes on that right away. The two section lines that we hit on are 400 meters apart. So infill it, extend it. It's already outside of our existing resource, which is an at surface to no more than 75 vertical meters as a pit constrained. So you can dig this up with a backhoe, and this is right in front of it, and it comes to surface, the high-grade shear vein. Yeah. So we're going to go explore for that. Last year, and the last 3 news releases prior to this drill intersection were outcrop grabs between, again, 1 to 50 ounces in 3 other places within our property that could be drilled.
Okay.
Right now, again, it's a matter of priority. We have multiple areas that we can generate, I think, results of high grade, which is 1 ounce plus. But going back to the model, what we're trying to do is take the dollars that we get and spend it in the place that's going to find the 5 million ounce deposit first before we go find the 500,000 ounce many deposits over there.
Yeah, gotcha.
And that's the focus. It's El Dorado Creek. El Dorado Creek has produced 3 million ounces of coarse bird's eye nuggets over the last, since 1896. I have a nugget in my pocket from Outcrop that is basically explaining the El Dorado Creek endowment. And we have lots to do.
Yep. Don't need a million other targets when you've got that much to do right there on a brand new discovery. Absolutely fair enough. Okay, to wrap up, since it is a precious metals roundtable, let's talk about precious metals for a moment. And, the question that's been asked probably on a lot of panels at this conference, but is still worth asking. I just recorded a little short video on how one of the things, investors come to this conference to hear what experts have to say, but it turns out experts do the same thing. We come to talk to each other and hear what each other are feeling about where precious metals are going and what that might do to stock prices, because it takes a team to figure out how all these different factors are going to feed into what comes in the next year. So, David, talk to me about your outlook on gold. What do you think is going to influence it? How do you think that might impact investor interest in the space? What's your 60 seconds on gold?
As a non-expert, I'll tell you what I think.
You've been in a gold company for long enough. I don't know if you get to say that anymore.
I think my views are actually more from my accounting side of my training. I think interest rates, we're in a cycle. I think we're hopefully a lot closer to the end than we are to the beginning, and that's going to have a huge impact, right? So as we see rates peak, as we see rates come down, the U.S. dollar should pull back, and just by fundamentals, that's going to lead to an increase in gold price. Really, the other thing people don't realize, gold is at all-time highs in pretty much every currency, right? We're in Canada, we're operating in Canada, so I think that's going to be fundamentally very important. And if I had to guess, I think we are going to see a good rate this year. I don't know if that's 10% or more, and I think that's sort of what the market needs to realize, that there's going to be a big increase here to get people really excited again. It's not a false start. That's number one. And then the other thing I think will lead to an increase in sustained gold price is a little more fundamental, is just the lack of exploration that's gone on in the last 10 years, right? All these big companies are still producing gold. Gold is still being consumed. They're going to need to really figure out how to find more of it, and supply and demand, that's going to be the second factor kicking in here soon.
Fair enough. Simon, same question. Maybe even if you have any other comments on investor interest in the space and what it might take to bring a little bit more back.
Well, actually, I think the price is, like you said, the price is at all times high. So I think the price is pretty good for mining right now. I think, what we need to see a move through 2100 to get investor sentiment back, because the price has been bouncing around 1900 to 2000 for a long time. The investors are bored with it.
Absolutely.
They want to see a move.
Yep.
And like you said, a change in interest rates will push the gold price up. So I think that'll be the key thing that we'll see this year. US dollar will weaken, interest rates will go down, and the gold will go up.
Simple. I like simple.
Simple.
There we go. Peter, anything to add to this, or maybe on the investor interest side?
If you want to do, one of the things I do is I watch Gwen's video on where gold is going. And I echo that though. Wait, gold is at an all-time high or near it. And from our our economic modeling of looking at our open pit constrained stuff, that's fantastic. The price right now is super. Makes me excited. We can go dig that thing up and make money at these prices.
Yeah.
So if you're going to forecast something that is going to go higher, that's even better. The other thing I'd add, though, is I started in this business in 1980 following the 1979 gold crash first, and I've seen this movie before. And really, I'm optimistic going ahead because the investor sentiment, particularly for the juniors, is so bad. We're all grossly undervalued for what we have in terms of resources and some of the near-term stuff that is potentially going to move all these stocks, ours included, but it's all of us. And that the money hasn't come into this space, but I'm personally, I was calculating this the other day, like 85% invested in senior gold companies. My portfolio is looking very nice. And the one dog in it is Klondike Gold. Currently, I'm buying it in the market now. My own company. Okay, that's just crazy. So I think there's a lot of room in the upside for the juniors all here. And buy all these juniors.
Okay, last question. I said the last one was the last one, but I think this one will be fun. Yukon offers the whole risk in the gold spectrum from, producing mines through to large established resources that are, moving their way towards development, through to growing discoveries, through to pre-discoveries. If each of you had to right now go and buy another Yukon stock, and we're going to discount the three on the stage because otherwise you're all just going to be too nice to each other and name each other's stocks. So can't be any of the three on the stage. But if you had to go out and buy another Yukon stock today, which one would it be? Sorry, that's really putting you on the spot, but I get asked all the time for stock picks on stage, so it's fun for me to put other people in that position. Peter. He's like, Klondike Gold is the only one.
That was an involuntary flinch. Why? Okay. I would buy Banyan. I have done.
Yeah.
I own it, and I've been buying. It's the gold endowment there next to Victoria Gold's. The infrastructure is there. There's a bunch of synergies.
Yeah.
And I think there's lots of room for price appreciation in the very near term.
And especially early in a gold move, right? Yeah.
If the gold moves, then that goes.
Yeah.
And there's interest, synergy, there's things happening, there's a mine next door, there's all of that.
Gotcha. Simon.
Well, I'm going to stay in the Tombstone Gold Belt, obviously, like you just spoke. But Sitka's recent results are looking very interesting.
Yeah.
Before it was looking a bit too low grade for the depth of the deposit, but it's looking pretty good right now. Yeah. So I go with Sitka.
Sitka, I like it. All right, David.
Yes, I was actually going to say both of those.
not a bad choice.
I would say any of them, to be honest. And one thing we did not touch on was jurisdiction. I think that's obviously a buzzword all the time. I don't think it's ever been more important than in this day and age when you're looking to evaluate your opportunity. I think in a rising market, you want to have something with good, solid ounces, and that's what's going to get the re-rating first. To that extent, that's why I guess both of those looked good. Victoria's already a producer, right? They have their big investment already made in a rising cost environment. That's important, so that could be one of them. Western Copper and Gold, I think, is another one. Just such a huge call option on gold and copper and everything else, and they've attracted a lot of major interest as well. So
fair enough. We're officially out of time, but Peter put his hand up. So what's your last point?
Just the point that it's basically the Denali Fault area to the Tintina Fault area, that this whole geologic environment has such a huge endowment from a global perspective, and it is utterly unexplored. So we're only picking the eyes out of it right now, and some of it's never been walked on, as you said.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys. I think this was a great panel. Thanks, everyone, for your interest. And these guys are absolutely at their booths and available for more information. Take care. Enjoy.